Support and resistance. The next two concepts we will discuss are known as support and resistance. I'm quite sure that most of you have heard these terms before and likely use them yourselves. And if you have not, that's fine. We'll learn about it now. Support and resistance are fairly critical to technical analysis. They're one of the most commonly used tools and indicators. So let's discuss first what they are. We'll start with support. Support refers to a price level where buying interest is sufficiently strong enough to overcome selling pressure. So essentially, if we have a price, a support means that the price, when it reaches a particular level, it has some support. There's lots of buying interest at that level, which should prevent the price from falling further, right? The buying interest should overcome the selling pressure. And we identify support by looking at prior lows. Right? So if we look at when prices previously made a low and recovered, we can identify that as being a support, where there was a lot of buying interest. Resistance is exactly the opposite of support and works in the same way. Resistance refers to a price level where selling interest is sufficiently strong enough to overcome buying pressure. So now we're going to look at prices going up, and resistance occurs when lots of people start selling at a particular level that prevents the price from going through that level, i.e. there's a resistance to the price from continuing upward. And we usually identify resistance by looking at previous highs. So we will look at when did the price previously make a high and then come back down. Right? So if a price made a high and then came back down, that's an indication that there was strong enough selling pressure at that point to get the price to go back down, and therefore it is resistance level. Now, of course, these are not levels that cannot be broken. Right? Otherwise, prices wouldn't go anywhere. In general, we expect that most of the time, the majority of the time, prices will bounce off the support or resistance levels. Alright, so most of the time if the price reaches a support, it should go back up. If it reaches a resistance, it should go back down. However, occasionally, prices will break through the support levels and will break through the resistance levels. And in the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the implications of this. But this should hopefully give you a general idea of what is support and what is resistance, and how we can identify it in a price series or in a chart. Support and resistance. Let's now continue our discussion on this topic. So we talked a little bit about the fact that prices occasionally break through the support level or the resistance level. Now we want to talk a bit more about the implications of this. So when a price breaks through a support level or a resistance level, it then usually moves much further in the same direction. Okay? So for example, let's say we have a support at 100 and the price is falling. Now, when the price approaches 100, there may be strong buying pressure that prevents it from reaching 100 or crossing it. But if the price does in fact cross 100, then we should see a further continued drop, maybe towards 95, 90, or the next support level. Alright, so it's like a barrier, and if that barrier is broken, then you can travel much further. Let's think about why this might be the case. Well, support levels and resistance levels are used to place stop losses quite often. Now, because when a support level or resistance level is breached, stop losses get closed out, and this pushes the price further in the same direction. And let's think about an example of how this might work. So let's say, for example, you have a bunch of investors who have taken a long position in the asset and placed their stop loss just below a support level. Now, if something happens such that the price is strong enough to break through that support level, you will now all of a sudden get a large group of investors which have stop losses on their buy positions, meaning they're having to sell to close out those positions. And that act of large number of traders selling just below the resistance level to close out stops will lead to the price falling even further. And this is why when we break through a resistance or support level, we can see prices move significantly in the same direction, primarily because of where stop losses are placed. We often use the breaking of support or resistance to signal a new trend. So if the price breaks through a support level, we consider that now the price is now in a downtrend. And if it breaks through a resistance level, we would consider that now it's an uptrend. And one of the other interesting features about support and resistance is that one can turn into the other. Right? So if a price is falling and breaks through a support level and then falls below it, that previous support level can become the new resistance level. And vice versa on an uptrend. If a price breaks through a resistance level going up, then that previous resistance level can become the new support level. Okay, we'll now go to an example to talk a bit more about this. Support and resistance. Now here we have the same graph that we had before when we looked at Dow theory. So what I would like to do is show you how to identify support levels and resistance levels on this graph. So if we look, for example, at the start here, we see the price going down, and then we see here it makes a low and comes back up. It makes the same low very close to it and comes back up. So we can kind of identify using these 2 points that we have some kind of support level here. Okay, and we can see that price doesn't really breach that support level. The same level comes up all the way here as well. It's roughly the same as that. And until we really get to here, the price doesn't ever breach that support level. So this kind of tells you that this is a significant support level. But because of the fact that we are in a primary downtrend, eventually the price does break through it and carries on going down. Now we can do the same thing with resistance. How can we identify resistance levels? So here, for example, is a good way to identify a resistance level. We have the price goes up here, bounces off, goes back up, bounces off, goes back up close to where it was and bounces off. So that's a kind of near-term resistance up here. We have some resistance levels up here, for example, price bouncing off the top, same over here, same levels here, bounces off the top, comes back down, and these are very, very short-term. We don't really have too many medium-term resistance levels here. They haven't really been dealt by the charts, so we can't really identify those. We can identify a lot of shorter-term ones. You can even identify a short-term support, for example, somewhere here, right? If we're looking at more minute trends, that's a short-term support. So we can identify resistance levels and support levels as being longer-term or short-term. Here, for example, we have another support level at this level where the price bounces off a couple of times, once here and then once here as well. So as you can see, we can, identify support levels and use these to help our understanding of what the price is doing.